All right, let's see here. This video here is kind of funny. Let's see. The title states, "That's ridiculous. How America's coronavirus response looks abroad. From lockdowns to testing, we showed people around the world the facts and figures and how the US has handled the pandemic." Right? Now keep in mind there are other countries that are operating well, kids are going back to school, people are taking the trains, going to work. They don't have to worry about all these different things that we're dealing with, like in Texas, Arizona, with refrigerated trucks packed outside hospitals, storing dead bodies like we had in New York back in March and April, because there's a hospital not too far from me, within walking distance. There were two refrigerated trucks outside there, and with dead bodies. And there was a tent outside the emergency department where people would first, there was like a long line, people would go in there just in case they contracted COVID, so they wouldn't bring it inside the hospital building. Right? Now, unfortunately, this is being spread like in Florida, Texas, Arizona. It's like they haven't learned anything. You know, if you look at states like Florida and Texas, right? Like right now, there's a hurricane going through Corpus Christi, Texas, and they had a hurricane back in a few years ago in Houston that really devastated Houston. So they're prepared. They understand what devastation means. They're prepared for hurricanes. So that's nothing new for them because they're near the Gulf of Mexico. So what was happening in New York with like we had like up to like 900 people dying a day from COVID. People in respirators, people dying in their homes. So, and New York happens to be, one of the centers with the major medias. You have media from all over the world located in Manhattan. So, that means anything that's really happening in New York, it will be spread across the world. The messages will be sent out, because it's a popular media center, a media hub. So, people in Florida, people in Texas, people in Arizona, I'm sure they saw what was going on in New York. That's my point. It's not like they were caught by surprise. Unless maybe the thing, New York is a dense place, so maybe that's why it's happening to them, but it wouldn't happen to us because Florida is not really as dense, except, maybe Miami-Dade. Texas is a very big state, so there are parts of it where people feel, well, you don't need to social distance, you know. But when you look at Manhattan, you look at people like in Times Square, people going to work on the trains. It looks something like you see in Tokyo, Japan, where they have that crossing in Shibuya, where you see they stop all the traffic lights, so everybody's crossing the street at once in Shibuya, and that's why you have what looks like, wow, so many people in Tokyo. But anyway, so I think what it is people probably thought, well, you know what? It's just that New York is dense. That's why they have this problem. But we're not gonna have it in Florida. We're not gonna have it in down in Texas or Arizona. Arizona is a very hot place. you know, you don't really see lots of people out, because I've been there once in Arizona. Yeah, one time years ago. Um, and it's so hot over there that nobody's gonna be like sitting out in a park like you do in New York, you know, because the temperature is so elevated. It goes over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Uh, and that's what, over 37, over 38 degrees Celsius. So I went to the Grand Canyon, and people mostly just drive around there in Arizona. They don't be walking around in New York like Manhattan. Manhattan is a good place for walking. We usually have good temperatures, except right now we have a heat wave. And the temperature, I think, is going to go up to like 93, 95, which is really a joke in comparison to some of the parts of the country. So let's see here. Let's start. The United States leads the world in COVID-19 deaths, nearing 150,000 lost lives. The unemployment figures brought on by the pandemic are mind-boggling. The Trump administration's show and haphazard response has been widely criticized. But what does it look like to young people around the world whose governments move quickly and aggressively to contain the coronavirus? We wanted to know, so we reached out to quite a few and showed them charts, facts, photos, and videos illustrating the US response. Spoiler, they were not impressed. Many advanced economies from Germany to Singapore directly supplemented salaries to save jobs. See, that's important. They directly supplemented salaries. Right now in the news, people getting like $600 extra a week on top of their unemployment. And right now the Republicans are saying, no, no, no. If you keep giving that $600, there'll be a disincentive. People won't want to go back to work. You know? Well, the truth is, look, most people do want to go to work, because if you have a job, it builds self-esteem. Very few people really are really bums who say, oh, I don't like working. I just want to collect some money. But most people like to get out there, have a job, self-esteem, because at least in America, I don't know about other countries, but in America, you go to a party or what have you, you mingle with people, and people associate themselves with the job, the things they do, the job they hold, the title they have. That's how people here behave, you know? They're not going to be telling you, well, what's my hobby and this and that. People want to know, like, well, what do you do? What are you, this and that, and so forth. That's the first thing they want to talk about. So, how does this feel? You go to a party, you meet people, and you say, oh yeah, I just sit around all day, I watch Netflix, I just use the remote control, look at old TV shows, and so forth, TV land. No, nobody really wants to talk to you, you know? Nobody wants to talk to somebody like that. People want to talk to people with positivity, that thing maybe they can learn from, maybe exchange business card. So that's how it works. So this whole idea that people will be disincentivized and want to stay home, it's not really true. However, at the same time, some people are afraid to go out to work right now. Not because they don't want to work, but because by showing up to work. Let's say you work in a factory or a place where you have like a lot of people together. We see how that works. Like in some of those places, slaughterhouses where they slaughter the animals, meat packing plants. Hundreds of people came down sick at the same time, from the COVID. So people have a real fear. It's not that, oh, I want to be a bum and I want to sit down and collect $600 plus my unemployment. No, they have a real concern, and especially if you live in a place like New York, where the subways are crowded, you're up in next to people's faces. You know, it's as crowded as it look like you see in Tokyo, Japan, where people on those subways going to work. So even right now, I read an article that even though we're like in phase 4 in New York City, where some people, can go back to work offices, still some people are still working from home. That maybe about 1/10 of the people are going into offices. So what does that mean? That means all those businesses like the food cart vendor guy selling hot dogs, he used to sell like 400 hot dogs in one day. And that particular day in the article, he only sold 10 hot dogs. There's no way you can make money like that. And by the way, in Manhattan, to get one of those licenses, and depending on where you put your food cart, you could be paying maybe like $200,000 for that license to sell hot dogs. Yeah, that's how it is. So how are you gonna survive if you have to pay that kind of money and you don't have people coming out office buildings? All those coffee shops, for example, right? People buying coffee. You see people a lot with a cup of coffee going to the offices and so forth. All those jobs are like they don't need people because a lot of people are not in the offices. A lot of people like to buy coffee. They like to buy food, and you don't have that demand right now. You see, and some people, if they can work from home, they rather do that. So this idea that but in Europe, that's what they're doing. They decide they supplement the salaries. Now here, instead of the $600, the Republicans in the Senate say they want to give like $200. Yeah, okay. So imagine that. If you're a person who voted Republican, all of a sudden you're $600 cut off from your unemployment. How are you gonna feel? The election is like less than 100 days from now. You're gonna feel happy pulling the lever or writing in or whatever, putting in for your um, Republican senator who's saying, no, I'm gonna take away that $600 from you and give you $200. That $600 means a lot to some people to pay their bills, their rent, their mortgage, or what have you. So it makes a big difference, right? So let's get back to this article here, right? Other nations with few resources started mass testing at the first sign of an outbreak. Many countries mandated universal lockdowns and successfully flattened the curve. In some parts of Europe, you could be fined for straying too far from your home. And Vietnam, a nation of 95 million people, has not seen a single COVID-19 death. And I was in Vietnam a few years ago, and believe me, you know, very crowded places. Like if you're in Ho Chi Minh City, now called Saigon. Wow, so many scooters, people all over the place. Or up in Hanoi, it's so crowded, and yet not a single death, unless the Vietnamese government is lying. But you know, hey, who knows? But that's what they're saying here. Not a single death from COVID. And about finding people, here you could barely get people to wear a mask. They say it's my First Amendment. That got nothing to do with it. First Amendment right. First Amendment is free speech. But if you have a pandemic, which we do, that has nothing to do with free speech. You know, what should be paramount is the health of everybody. And if you have to wear a mask, you have to wear a mask. But some people get into arguments. One person pulled a gun out on somebody because somebody asked him to wear a mask. And let me see, what state was this? I think it was Florida. He had one of these concealed guns, and he said, "I'm going to kill you." And he pulled his gun out. So this is where we are now, in America. People pulling guns out because somebody said you should wear a mask, or people beating up people in stores like Target and Sam's Club or whatever. Because remember, the people who work in those stores, they're there every day and they have to deal with customers. So if you go into a store, you'll be there for, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes the most, and you're out. But if you have that virus is going to stay in the air, right? It's going to stay there for a while, maybe for hours. So the people working in the store, there's a potential for them to contract it. But here in America, you have a number of inconsiderate people. They only think of themselves. They figure, oh, I don't have it. And I saw that the other day when I was on the train. I was coming from work, and there was a man talking. I mean, it was bad enough. He wasn't wearing a mask, and people asked him to put on a mask, and he was talking loud. And he said, "No, I'm not sick." He said, "I am not sick. I don't have to wear a mask." And one woman, and he told one lady, "Well, if you don't like it, get off the train," which she did. She did get off the train. And unfortunately for her, she wasn't fast enough. If when you get off the train, to see if you can run around and get into the other carriage so you could get back on board. But she didn't make it in time. So this poor woman lost a trip on that train because of that man, inconsiderate. And he's saying, "I am not sick." Well, you know what? I took a course, right, in contact tracing. I took a few months ago from Johns Hopkins Public School of Health or what have you, and they say that about 30% of the people who have that virus, they are asymptomatic. That means they show no symptoms, and they can spread it. However, so this whole idea that you're not sick or what have you, and if I live maybe in a different country, in a different place, more than likely I would have told him, "Look, sir, that's not correct." But here in New York, it really doesn't matter in public sometimes to get up and speak, because some people here can be, you don't know, can be ignorant. They can escalate something minute into something major. And let me give one example. A guy was setting off fireworks. It was around 4 p.m. This was last week. And a lady asked him to stop setting off the fireworks, because these were not regular. These would sound like dynamite. And okay, he left. He left, and he came back with a gun. He came back with a gun. He shot the woman. He shot the woman's boyfriend as they were running away. Unfortunately, the woman died. So, unfortunately, this is where we are in America. You can't be civil anymore. You can't tell anybody anything. You see? And I'm aware of that. You see, it would have been easy for me to educate him and say, "Look, sir, not because you believe you are not sick, that doesn't mean you can't be asymptomatic and you transmitting the virus. That's possible, you know. And I'm not sure how that conversation would have gone over. Maybe he wouldn't like it. Not everybody likes being educated or being informed about something. So why even bother? That's my point, you know. So the guy came back with a gun and he shot 2 people over something stupid like that, telling him that to stop the fireworks, stop setting off the firecrackers or what have you. You see? So that was it. But anyway, let me get back to this here. So this opinion video is a follow-up to a popular video we produced last year, which asked young Europeans to respond to American policies such as healthcare and prenatal leave. Many comments suggested we produce a sequel. Well, here it is, the COVID-19 edition. Okay, let's see here.
Watch this.
Let's do this commercial. Skip.
All right.
Okay.
And I spoke with Angela Merkel today. I spoke with many of the leaders over the last 4 or 5 days. They all view us as the world leader, and they're following us.
Hold on.
Oh, wow.
Oh my god.
That's ridiculous.
Are they mass graves?
Even third world countries like Senegal, where I'm from, is not like this right now.
Anybody that needs a test gets a test. They're there, and the tests are beautiful.
It's a nightmare. First denied testing, twice denied ER admittance. Iowa man dies of COVID-19.
That's just cannot be. When a person wants to do a test and it gets denied.
In South Korea, either you can do drive-through test or you can even do walk-through test, which looks like a phone booth and you just go in.
Germany tests are for free. I think we tested like 350,000 people a week.
I don't think anyone in New Zealand was denied a test. If you had even the slightest symptoms, it was, here's a COVID-19 test, please make sure you're okay.
You know what? Staying at home leads to death also.
Whoa. You have this amount of person in a beach?
I remember seeing those pictures and sitting in Germany and worrying about the world going down.
It's a contagious, come on everybody.
There's some young people who are still converging on the beaches of Florida for spring break. Now the state governor, what does he say? He says he's not going to shut down beaches amid the outbreak.
Yeah, I don't think Americans know what a lockdown is.
France, Germany, UK,
Bulgaria, Cyprus,
Zimbabwe, Angola, Uganda,
Luxembourg,
Russia, Italy,
Albania, Montenegro, India, Iran,
Eritrea, Guinea-Bissau, Nepal.
Oh, okay, that's a lot.
So in Singapore, for example, we've got fines if we don't follow the rules.
Here in Jordan, you couldn't leave your house. You couldn't even walk downstairs to your neighbor. You weren't allowed.
I understand that they're feeling worried about, the small businesses that they've spent their lives building. I understand that. But you can rebuild that. You can't give someone their life back.
Well, I think the economy is going to do very well. Now, that's just my feeling.
Here in the United Kingdom, the government is paying up to 80% of the wages of people who can't do their jobs.
In Germany, you got 5,000 for 3 months.
The Singapore government subsidized 75% of all the citizens' wages.
If your adjusted gross income is $75,000 a year or less, you will get a full $1,200 check from the U.S. government.
Yeah, it's just a one-time payment.
When you have to pay your rent, your food, your medical cares, that's not that big.
On May 8th, official figures on unemployment were released.
Oh, that's part of the graph. Jeez.
I thought that was like the end of the page, like a border.
No way. Oh my god.
Did I read that right? 20.5 million
jobs.
Pandemic is also causing many to go hungry. Thousands have been forced to wait for hours in long lines at food banks all across the country.
No.
Whoa. Whoa.
What?
It's really shocking. A superpower like the US being at this point like a third world country.
So, supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin.
Oh my god.
That's because people elected a reality star, a clown,
to get our country open.
for the highest
Say,
office.
sir, what metrics you will use to make that decision?
The metrics right here.
A lot of dumb people.
We see the shit he says. We see the decisions he makes, and it's funny. But when it comes to something as serious as this, it's not funny anymore.
Are they mass graves?
That's Hart Island in New York City.
I'm sorry, America has mass graves.
Oh my god, you didn't, so I've never seen this.
What the hell? I'm covered in goosebumps right now.
Same.
Okay, so by May 5th, the United States has endured over 68,000 coronavirus deaths, more than 14 times that of China.
China, like densely populated China.
It cannot be that. Really?
It's over 100,000 now.
I really didn't know. I feel so sorry for the people.